So in my employment law practice, I'm helping both employees and employers with kind of all elements of the employment relationship. So that involves kind of like, what people would normally think of the hiring and firing parts of the process, but it's also everything that happens in between that. From an employee perspective, that's dealing with, getting a new contract during the course of your employment, maybe dealing with promotions, maybe even an employee thinking about leaving and what their obligations are to their current employer if they go get a new job, like with any sort of restrictions. So helping them understand that. Similar with employers, like kind of the opposite sides of those things. Also managing your workforce, dealing with workforce problems, maybe you have some issues, some difficulties. Kind of runs the gamut of everything you can imagine that happens in the employment relationship, we deal with. And doing employment law, it's like something different every day. And you're really helping people through, good times, bad times, difficult things. So, one day you can be helping an employee, maybe or prospective employee, like looking at a job offer, dealing with termination. Another day I'm helping an employer client, and maybe you're helping give support to a human resources professional who's dealing with a difficult situation. So it's really about giving people advice to help them work through things and get to the other side happily, hopefully. If I'm dealing with an employee who's lost their job, obviously it's an emotional and difficult situation. They've probably had a lot of information thrown at them very quickly. It comes with some sort of a deadline to sign off on a package. So there's a lot of anxiety, and kind of my job is, aside from obviously giving them information, is kind of bring that anxiety level down and help them through that process with that advice, with the information that'll help them get through the other side of that, uh, hopefully better than they came in. So I used to do a bit of commercial litigation as well as my employment practice. And I had one matter that involved a person and an insurer. It was a very emotional matter for various reasons, but I was able to get the client a very good result, a very fair result, and also ended up having a positive dialogue with the insurer as well. So it was just kind of an overall very professionally fulfilling assignment, let's call it. Just because everything, the end result was great. Um, how I how I dealt with people was very good, and how they dealt with me. So it was all the management of all the relationships. Everything went as well as you'd want it to, which isn't always the case. I like to collect action figures, but only very specific ones. I only collect DC superpowers. There's a McFarlane line. This is like, it's a nostalgia thing for me because when I was a kid, there was the original line from Kenner, and I guess they got the license here and they've reissued them, but they look exactly the same as they did like 40 years ago. And I really like the aesthetic of them. So it's mostly those, but if I see a nice looking action figure, I will buy it from time to time.